Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Hope you guys have been enjoying the content on the channel as of late. This is, I think, an interesting topic to discuss because this is something that we've discussed plenty of times on this channel, more or less to do with the Marvel stuff. But I want to make more of a general observation because I've made it very centric to Marvel stuff. So I want to now expand upon my point about mainstream culture and how I truly believe it's struggling right now. And I think that it's, you know, uh, I think we're, in some cases, I hope we're seeing a new age, hopefully being upon us pretty soon when it comes to this particular culture. I have doubts, um, but for the past, I would say like 2 years or so, I know some people will chalk it up to the pandemic, and there is an argument to be had with that, um, but for the past, I want to say like 2 or 3 years now, I would say that mainstream culture has been on a downhill spiral, and it has to do a lot to do with many things. I mean, yes, you can use the pandemic as an example, but I think quality has also been just, for the most part, pretty spotty, and just the word of mouth of it, has been changing. There's the fan bases for a lot of the stuff like Marvel and DC and amongst other things, like usually people would be pretty positively towards these kinds of things because they're fanboys. They love this sort of material, and they've also grown up with the material, reading the comic books and stuff like that. I'm not one of those. I just watch the film and I just give my 2 cents on them. And then there's people who actually genuinely do like these films, um, but it seems that the tone of everything has changed, and it's been skewing more towards more cynicism and more negativity than positivity, it seems, nowadays. And I think that a lot of that has to do with just how these companies produce these films. They're becoming a lot more quick and a lot more like, like again, like factory work, where they just pump it out, every so often with because they want to hit a certain demo while it's still hot, just business being business. The problem that I think that with that now is that there is a fatigue that has been forming for, I would say, about a year now, and I've been seeing it. Um, that within not just superheroes, but just the blockbuster in general. I've been seeing just this, and this year especially, we've seen it now, not once, not twice, but 3 times. The first time that it was evident was with the latest Ant-Man film, which critically was, I heard not so great things about it. Um, and just financially, it just did not pull as much as usual. And I know people say, well, it's Ant-Man, but it's like, but but a Marvel film, traditionally does not make that kind of money. You know what I mean? And it's telling, especially when you have this type of stuff that the film was billing. You had the new villain and you had all these other stuff. So it's pretty. I wouldn't say shocking, but it's just like, oh, because I've always known that this was going to happen because I've never believed in longevity when it comes to franchises. The reason why the Marvel franchise has lasted as long as it has is because it had a through line. It had a story with the whole, Thanos thing and the Infinity Stones that was appealing and people were fascinated by, and they set it up properly. And now they don't have that, and they're trying to still build a foundation. And as far as I'm concerned, anyway, it's just scattershot. There's no real story to speak of. I mean, we have something with Kang, and then we have something going on with Loki, and then we have something going on with Doctor Strange, and then something going on over here. It's just a lot of stuff, I mean, a lot of stuff going on, but there's no through line. There's no real connection to all these stories except something to do with Kang. Which, but with that, you have people who are just now asking themselves, why am I invested? Why do I need to put my time towards this kind of franchise? If the story is just so mindless and there's no real purpose, to what I'm watching, you know. And that also has been translating into other films beyond franchises. We just saw that with Rainfield this past weekend, the Dracula thing. Which, funny enough, like before the film came out, they were billing this as like the sequel to the original Dracula, which up until, I would say, yeah, up until a week before the film came out, I never ever heard about it. Heard about the film being that. I presume it's because they probably heard how much money they were gonna make, and they were like, well, we need to market it somehow, you know. So maybe that's why they included that, because I don't know. I haven't seen the film, but maybe I have very low doubts that that was set in stone prior, you know. So um, but maybe it was. I don't know. But even that film, Rainfield, did not make a lot of money. It was a big flop. I think it made like 7 million, and the film was like 50, 60 million or something like that. So um, and I believe there was another film as well, which I'm completely forgetting at the moment. Completely forgetting. Let me look it up real quick. I just remembered what it was. It was Shazam 2. That was another film that also flopped at the box office. Um, and I know that, again, the argument comes up with, similar to Ant-Man, that, oh, well, Shazam didn't make a whole lot of money the first time either. Well, Shazam was also critically accepted. People really, really appreciated and really liked that film a lot. So you would expect that the sequel would actually, maybe not quality wise be better, but financially probably do a little bit better than what the first one did. Um, Especially since people have accepted, Zachary Levi as Shazam and all that sort of stuff, and it didn't. It flopped, and um, I think that the reason for it, like for me, like it's not just all the fatigue. That's the primary thing about it. I think is fatigue and just the blockbuster, mentality. I think is starting to, like, the whole novelty of a blockbuster, and just explosions and this and that and capes and boom and bang. I think that that's just starting to wane on people. But I think that more so because I'm going to use the Mario movie as an example, because the Mario movie's been doing gangbusters. It's been skyrocketing. And the reason why I'm using this as an example is because that is an example of a film that people want to see. And I'm talking about mainstream audiences, because generally speaking, people go to watch a film aesthetically. That is what gets them into the theater. And what is the difference between Mario and the other films that I've listed? Mario is a super, super colorful film. It is a very expressive film. It has lush animation. I mean, story-wise, we can get into debates and stuff like that, but visually, that film has a lot going on. And you look at other films like Ant-Man, Shazam, and Rainfield, they are all very, very bland-looking films, and thus, I'm talking about the mentality of the audience. I'm not saying they're stupid. I'm just saying that this is what attracts people to go see films nowadays. It has nothing to do with story. It has everything to do with visually. Mario has all the color. Ant-Man looks very dull. Rainfield looks very dull. Shazam looked very dull, Like, all those films looked very dull. And Mario has a ton of color going on. I mean, there's that whole rainbow sequence that's literally just a splash of colors. And I think that that's what's pulling a lot of people to go see Mario in some respects. I know that that also has to do with, people will make the argument saying that, oh, well, it's also because the source material, people really love Mario and stuff like that. That partially has to do with it, and I don't think that that's the main reason why the movie's making a ton of money. Um, I mean, if that was the case, then why did Sonic not make a lot of money, and why did these other notable video game properties that return into movies um, make a whole lot of money? I think it has everything to do with the fact that the film is an animated film, and it has the ability to be so expressive and so colorful. I would make the argument that if Sonic was an animated film, um, I would argue that it would actually be making as much money as Mario is making right now, because it would have much more room to be expressive and to be its own, to be, you know uh, colorful, and just um, present a dish of of visuals, versus sticking with the limitations of live action, which is what hindered its ability to make a lot more money, because people are not really in tune with that type of presentation when it comes to this particular genre. When it comes to presenting it in a more animated front, it's a lot more appealing, and it has a lot more of a visual appeal, and hence audiences are more attracted to something like that than they are with Sonic. So so I think it has everything to do with aesthetics, and um I think that has that I think that's the main draw of Mario. I know that there are fanboys and people who love the source material that will obviously go see the film, but just a general person who is going to see Mario, I think it just has to do partially with the fact that, yeah, it's Mario. Hey, Mario's cute. But also because it's a very visually appealing looking film. Like the poster is just all rainbow colors and stuff like that. It's like a kid at a candy store, you know? It's like when you see the rainbow, you know, twirly thing, that looks more delicious than just a scoop of vanilla ice cream, you know? Like it's like, you know, it just looks a lot more interesting than what we have over here. So because that's ultimately what I believe to be the mentality of an audience member nowadays, you know, especially with mainstream culture. You know, if it just doesn't look that appealing, like literally, like we're not talking about just about story because audiences could just really care less about what the story is nowadays. It's about the visuals, you know, and I think Mario is really where it's at. You know, Mario right now is a visual uh, paradise for mainstream audiences right now. For those other films that I've mentioned, Ant-Man, Shazam, and Rainfield, they're fairly dull. You know, they lack in visual appeal, and that's why Mario is doing it as much as it is right now. So, um, and also it's just, you know, it has a format that's a little bit more, like I said, a little bit more digestible and a little bit more like, you know, it has more appeal towards bigger audiences. Like it has kids and adults. You know, it's not just, you know, like gearing towards like, oh, fanboys or these sorts of people. You know, it's more fluent. You know, it's a little more flexible with what kind of people can come see the film and what kind of people would be interested to see this film. So that's why I think Mario's doing really well, because it's a film that is enticing for many kinds of people, not just Nintendo fanboys or whatever like that. So, um, and that's really, I think, the struggle with mainstream culture nowadays is that we're seeing more and more exclusivity, you know, versus more inclusivity, if that's even a word, for audience members. Audiences are becoming a little bit more. It seems more so selective with what they want to see, and I think that the draw is aesthetically. I think that if you have strong aesthetics, you know, and um, some notable names here or there to really, you know, to splash all over those visuals, I think that you can actually bring in more audiences and more people to watch those films. Because I think that really is the draw if you really narrow it down. Because story, that's secondary, you know, for any general audience member. The real appeal is what it looks like, what the film itself looks like, and that's why I really think Mario is doing really well. I think that it has little to do with the story. I think it has everything to do with how it looks. So, um, and I think that mainstream culture, right, as of late, has just been aesthetically just been really dull, and just in general, just been flat. And people are, I think, just getting tired of seeing, like I've been saying for a while, just the same stories being told over and over and over and over again. Mario is that, like, you know, it's doing what any other mainstream film would do, but its presentation is different. You know, that's why people are coming to see that film, because it looks different than the other films that we have offered on the at the table, you know. Um, but I think people are starting to mature a little bit as well with what kinds of stories they want, what kind of films they want. You know, I don't think people are more willing now to accept the same kinds of movies being presented. Um, you know, people do want change. People do want something new to the table, you know, and I welcome that. I've been saying that for a very, very long time about about just the quality of these kinds of films as of late. It's just been really dull, and that's why I for the most time avoid blockbusters, because they just operate on the same mentality, under the same mechanics, under the same kinds of expectations. You know, like they don't do anything that inventive or new. They just switch a few things here or there. They add a notable star. You know, it's you know, like they all look the same. Like visually, they just feel the same. You know what I mean? And I think that that's why people are turned off by all those other films, because they just look the same. They're just like, I've already seen that film. I don't care for that. Mario looks different. it acts the same, but it looks different. You know what I mean? So that's how you're getting people to come see it, because it just looks different. And curiosity, is is getting more people to come see that film. So, um, but I hope that this is a motive to make some changes. I hope that we will actually start seeing other kinds of films being given an ear. We have Beau is Afraid, which is coming out pretty soon, and maybe hopefully that film might do. Well, that has Joaquin Phoenix in it, so but I'm hoping that people will be more intrigued to see, you know, lesser known films, or perhaps films that they haven't considered before. Hopefully this promotes more change. And hopefully it promotes uh, more change in taste. I guess what I'm trying to say. Um, I do believe the future of cinema in terms of just mainstream appeal is going to be horror. I just think horror is going to have a resurgence pretty soon here. We've been seeing that resurgence for the past couple of years, um, but I think it's just going to keep progressing and keep growing. And I really think superheroes are going to die out in the next coming years. Um, but um, but I am very hopeful for change, because currently it's struggling, and I think that it's because people are at that point where they're now beginning to question what it is that they like, in terms of going to the movies. And I like that. I like that that is happening, and I am very intrigued to see where that takes us. I think it's horror. I don't think that there's any other place to go but horror. Um, but it's very interesting, and to me, very relieving, because I'm just getting kind of tired of this age of superheroes, and I'm wanting to branch out into to a new dawn. And it's not to say that I have an agenda against superheroes or anything like that. I have seen superhero films. I've seen the Batman most recently, which I liked. It wasn't bad, but there's a mentality that's always within that genre that I'm just tired of. I like the outliers of that were like The Dark Knight and Logan. Logan probably being the most recent one, which I really liked Logan a lot, because it was different. It wasn't something that was operating on the same mechanics, or again with the same expectations or the same ideas. It's something far from that. It's an outlier really in this genre, and that's why I really really like it. Everything else is just kind of just playing the same old tunes, and I think people are starting to catch wind of. I caught wind of that like a few years ago, like 2 years ago. I've been noticing people catching that wind, and now everybody is starting to feel it. And I feel, or at least most people it seems are starting to feel it. And obviously you'll have the defenders out there, the fanboys, and just people in general who like these films. But I I have a suspicion that in the next coming years that we're going to be seeing a transitional period for mainstream culture in terms of what their taste is, and what they want more than anything. And I bet you anything that it's going to be horror. I think that horror is going to be the dominant factor again with mainstream audiences. It's already having its resurgence. It's been having the resurgence for many years now, but I think that it's going to be back on top um, pretty soon here. So if mainstream culture wishes to not be struggling anymore, I think that it's time to start making some changes, and pushing uh, pushing business towards maybe towards a different genre, or towards a different kinds of presentations. Like I said, Mario is making money because of how it looks. It has nothing to do with the story. It has everything to do with how it looks. Because of that, that's the mentality of an audience member. It's what looks good, and when they say that, they literally mean that. What looks good, what I mean? Not what looks good. What looks good. So, um, so you know, so maybe it's just a change in presentation, or maybe it's just a change of the whole thing. You know what I mean? And I think that um, it, the inevitable is the whole meal. I think the whole meal has to be changed. It's not just the plate. I think that the meal itself has to change, and I think people are starting to voice that, and that voice, I believe, will not be silenced. I believe that voice will continue to rise and continue to progress as years come. So so that's my observation on mainstream culture as of late. I think that's definitely in a down period, and I think that it will. I think that it's definitely going to uh, be lifted by some needed changes, and hopefully those changes are I I I, I believe are going to be pretty soon. I believe in that in like at least 5 or 10 years time, we're going to be seeing a change in what people want to see in the theater. It's not going to be superheroes. I can guarantee you that. I think that horror will be making a return. I really, really feel that it will be that. Um, so that's my honest thoughts. But you guys, let me know your thoughts. Do you guys think I'm just full of shit, or do you guys kind of agree with what I'm seeing? But you guys let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And just to be clear again, I have no quarrel against superhero films. I mean, if there is a superhero film out there that I would be curious in, then I will definitely consider watching it. Like, even though I'm against the idea of it, I mean, I would be curious to see Joker 2, just because the first Joker was, well, I didn't really like it. I appreciate the fact that it was something different within this genre. So, and I would be curious to see Joker 2, even though I don't think it's necessary. I still would go and check it out, because it's something different. So I still welcome the genre, but it's with hesitation, more or less. So, um, but but just want to make that clear because I don't have like an agenda against them. I just really don't like most of the time what they do, you know. So, but you guys let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's gonna be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for watching. We'll have more videos out pretty soon here. Some more reviews and stuff like that, and some more topic videos like this. I have an old topic video that's gonna be coming out pretty soon here. You might notice that I might be talking in like past tense in that video. That's just because I recorded it a whiles ago and I've yet to put it up. So, um, but but just be on the lookout for that. If you notice that if I'm talking in past tense in any future video, um, that's just because I just recorded that a while ago. But other than that, thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video.